No, what I would say is never underestimate the value of making your boss look good.
Ah, that is some good advice. I like that. Now, Rusty, take the flip side of that. Give me some bad advice on how to communicate with your boss.
Write a 500-word essay about everything that ails you and that you hate about whatever's going on. Just put it all in writing, because that's a bad way to deal with things.
And share it with everybody too,
And
right?
share it with everybody.
Okay. I added that because I thought, okay, Steve, you need to one up him right now. Give me some
Okay.
worse advice than that, because that is pretty
Worse.
bad.
That's pretty bad. I would say worst advice, go in and tell them that you think your 5-year-old can do a better job than he can.
And let everybody know about that as well.
Get ready. It's Super Cyber Friday.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Super Cyber Friday. You may have heard the audio ducking. We're dealing with audio issues on this too. But hey, we greatly appreciate you coming out to Super Cyber Friday today. Our topic is hacking bosses, an hour of critical thinking about how to manage conflict and engage with higher-ups to advance your career. That's what we're going to focus on today. My guests are Rusty Waldron, who's the Chief Business Security Officer over at ADP, and also Steve Zalewski, who's the co-host over at Defense in Depth, which is CISO series. All right. If you want to participate, lots of different great ways to participate. There's a chat room. Many of you already discovered that. Also, please, the bad idea, I love this topic, how not to communicate with your boss. You just heard a couple of really bad ones right there. I bet you can one up all of their bad ideas. We want to see it. And by the way, this is the best part of it, is I'm going to make Rusty and Steve, and Rusty knows how to play this because we played it in front of a live audience in DC. They're going to play the Department of Yes of all your bad ways to communicate with your boss. All right. And I am really eager to see how Rusty and Steve deal with that challenge. Not all of you, the two best ones that we vote up. All right. Then you'll submit tips on actually how to improve a relationship with your boss. Actually, Steve gave us a good tip here, and hopefully Rusty and Steve will give us a lot more. We'll vote in polls. Now, here's the other thing. Join us on video with Bring Me On. Now, I met someone last night who is actually communicating with their boss in about 45 minutes. And hopefully she's here because I'm eager to bring her on and talk about the situation I have. And hopefully Rusty and Steve can actually give her good advice. Remember, we're not going to give her bad advice. We're going to give her good advice. So if you're there, please say Bring Me On. I'm not looking at the chat room. Hopefully that's it. And then ask a question at any time and vote for your favorite question. Let me quickly wrap this up. Today's schedule, you'll see it's a classic. We do it all the time. We'll play the public interest. We'll play the Department of Yes. And then, by the way, we're going to have our meetup at the end. So at the end of this hour, we'll have a chance to chat with everybody. And so please stick around for that because that's a really, really fun time. And then very lastly there's a button at the bottom of the screen that says join our next show, which is going to be hacking container security. Actually, that should be October 6th, not 9/6. That's my error. I typed in 9/6. That's October 6th, 2023. So next Friday, hacking container security. So please, and it says it correctly on the button below. Click on that. And if you click on that, it will not take you out of this chat whatsoever. So you can essentially click on that, register for next week, and still be part of the chat as well. All right. Enough of me talking like this. Geez, why is it doing? It's going to do that again? Nope. Hold on. I'm getting used to this new platform here. All right. Rusty, Steve. Now let's get back to talking. Let's just start with the base. We're going to start problems here. What do you do when you realize you've got a problem with your boss? What's like the first thing that you should do? And I'm assuming, like a boss, you want to know if there are problems with your employees. Yes, Rusty?
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, it for me, like if I ever feel uncomfortable, if I feel like I'm holding back, that's probably a really good indication that I really need to figure out what's going on and be able to talk to my boss, right? Because you got to have a good relationship in really order to be able to do big things and move things forward. So that's one of those kind of inner tells. You know, if I feel like I got to overthink it, or especially if you start putting together a huge defense, right, of all of why you do or don't, like, to me, that's one of those things where you really got to look at it and go, okay, what do I need to do here?
Good thing.
So
Now, and both of you are on both sides. You have employees that come to you, and you have bosses that you go to. So you see it from both angles, right? Steve.
one of the things I say is you pick your boss. Your boss doesn't pick you. Okay. In that it's a mindset. Okay. So you're picking the boss. You're picking somebody that you want to work for, that you think is going to advance your career, that has your best interest in mind, that is aligned in some capacity. And if none of that is true, you got a problem. So the first thing I say is empower yourself to realize you have a choice. Now, that's not always true, but you want to realize that it's a negotiation, that it's a win-win conversation. Okay. And so oftentimes when you got a problem with your boss, is you feel like you're in a win-lose proposition. And so what you have to say is, can you get your mindset to one of win-win and look at it from his perspective or her perspective and yours? And then what do you want to accomplish out of this? Is this a job or is this actually a career? And this is a stage in your career growth. So there's this empowerment over, do you want to be a problem and expect people to just advance you? Or do you want to take control and be part of the solution?
In fact, Steve, you are the last quote in that video that I created about like red flags when looking for a job. And you said, you had a great line at the end. You said, they didn't want to grow me, they wanted to use me. And that's a good tell sign if you've got a situation like that. Yeah, you've seen this, Rusty, that behavior where you're being used, not grown.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and there's a tendency, especially if there's a hardcore subject matter expert, right, that they keep being the only thing that someone will go to. And that's one of those things that, Steve, to your point, you have to really look out for yourself, is to really make sure that you're putting yourself in the right position and the right opportunity to be able to help your career go forward. Right. It's really can be a challenge. So they used to call that like being pigeonholed or cornered right into a very specific role or slot. I think we all have to be cognizant of that and be able to move things forward for ourselves.
Yep. Now, another thing I'll say, another way to look at this is in your own mind, and this happened to me, there comes a point where you feel like you're part of the problem, not part of the solution. And that's either because you've been there long enough and there's been enough transition that you just don't have it in you to rebuild relationships, right? And want to be able to grow forward. That you just feel like at this point I've done everything I can, or I've been pigeonholed, and you feel like you're part of the problem, and that's how you're being perceived. Oh, it's Steve again. What do you want this time? As opposed to, oh, Steve, that's a great idea. Let's see what we can do. Okay. And so you have to evaluate from your own perspective, have you reached that kind of transition point? Or has your leadership team made that decision? And then you have to figure out what you want to do. And so again, it's another observation I've made over the years in myself as I've observed how I've been managed and how I manage as well. Because I've had these conversations, which is, hey, look, the behavior you have at this point is a negative behavior. You don't feel like you've been engaged. You don't really have it in you. It might be time to do something else. Or in my own mind, I just simply say, okay, here's the next round of transitions. I just don't have it in me at this point. It's time to rebuild relationships somewhere else. Nice way to look at it from my perspective, to empower yourself, again, to realize, where are you at?
You're getting a lot of cred from Dwayne Grand right now. Steve is dropping serious truth bombs here. I feel seen on some of these examples. Are you peering into Dwayne's life right now? So let's get into the details of the actual engagement, because I can't stress this enough, and I hope my team, of which they're all here, if you got a problem, come to me. Last thing you want is something to fester, right, Rusty? Because I see this with my friends who work at really big corporations, and the management doesn't do a great job of dealing with employees' specific details. And it may just be the sheer quantity. Does sheer quantity of people to manage just get in the way of trying to make everyone happy, Rusty?
I guess that depends on kind of the organization, but going back to something Steve was talking about a little earlier, you kind of have ownership of that, both as a leader, and as an employee, to really be able to raise things up. And I remember I had some great advice from a mentor a few years ago that told me that, when you go talk to, whether or not it's your boss or someone else who's kind of up the management food chain, you know, they get hit with problems all the time, right? That's really where most people come out of the gate, is just, here's a list of everything that has ever gone wrong, because it's really about them. The advice that I got was, start by talking to the person, right? Get a little intro there, start to know the person. Don't just hit them with the problems, and then actually move into that conversation of the challenges that you're facing. And someone noted in the comments earlier, like, also to maybe bring an option or a couple of options on how you might address that. And so when you start talking about up and down an organization, I don't think it really matters how big that organization is, that ultimately you need to be available as a leader, to really help people and listen to people and kind of move the needle forward.
Um, this question comes from Jim McLeod, who says large corporations used to train managers. And by the way, this new version of Crowdcast, it has the questions. It used to be on the bottom. It's now on the right. So it's right under the chat when the little question. So ask your questions there. That's the easiest way for us to see them. He says, Jim McLeod says, large corporations used to train managers. Did they stop doing that? I mean, as far as I know, big companies still do that. I'm assuming they still do that at ADP. Yes, Rusty?
Yeah, they do. And I will say that while there's a lot of training that happens kind of within that organization, I think a lot of companies are really looking for that kind of executive leadership, maybe even in some external sources. Disney used to have one of the big, if you want to be a manager, kind of training scenarios. But there are a lot of them out there today. There are even, podcasts like this that can really talk about how to engage. There's tons of books out there about it.
Oh, tons.
I think it's really a very dynamic environment now that needs to be supplemented, right? Because a lot of times organizations can be myopic, right, in their type of management, and realistically, you need different influences in order to be successful in today's world.
Go ahead.
So I'll
Steve.
throw a couple of thoughts in here too, which was, and again, it's perspective. There's a lot of people that are taught to be managers, but it's very different to be a manager versus a leader. And what you want to do is find somebody who understands how to be a leader, because a lot of management is actually bad management. And I can't tell you the number of times when I brought somebody in, the first thing you have to do is, in essence, untrain them from bad management practices and instill in them leadership practices. And one example of that is failure an option? If failure is not an option, find another boss. Because if you're really stretching yourself, the goal is to make mistakes in a safe environment as quickly as you can and go forward. Because that is how you add to the velocity of your career and the velocity of your boss's career, because you're adding to the velocity of the company. So again, it's ways to tease out what is it that you want out of the relationship with your boss, and ways that you can think about it as to, are you up for that, and is your boss?
But Steve, this is the interesting thing is, yes, you do want people to fail. And, I have failed and members of my team have failed too, but nothing catastrophic has happened. But at the same time, we say, hey, just so you know, this thing's kind of really important. So let's create more checks and balances on this thing. So when we do fail, it fails less often, I guess,
Okay. So, and again, I'm talking philosophy here. There are two types of people. There are people that you have to earn their trust first before they'll give you the opportunity to take one step.
Mm-hmm.
There are others who, after that initial evaluation, you have their trust and it's yours to lose. Okay. You have to understand what kind of a boss you have. I tend to be the type that says, I give you the trust and I empower you, because what I say is, you have the right to make any decision you feel you're comfortable making. If you're uncomfortable making a decision, let me know. And I will have your back when you make a decision, and we'll support you. But we may have a conversation afterwards about how that decision might have been better made. See, doing it that way, where now they're understanding I have the right and the power, and he's trusting me, and I don't want to violate that trust. Versus he won't let me open the door unless I write a note, okay? And he has to approve it. And so therefore, what am I going to do? I'm going to circumvent him because he's sitting on me and I feel very uncomfortable, and I'm going to find ways around that. And now we're setting up a lose-lose conversation.
All right. We have our first game coming up, although we've been playing Best Bad Idea with the audience. And oh my God, there's some really good bad ideas coming in. We got our first game.
Do you know what others are thinking? On the public interest.
All right, here it is. It's a simple game. Rusty, you played this when we were in DC. Steve, you've played this before. As I always say, there's only 4 questions. Extremely difficult to get 4 for 4. Let's see if either of you can do it, or our audience for that matter. All right, first one. First question. Most average monthly search queries. Is it supervisor, manager, or leader? Which one gets the most?
Leader.
Leader.
Leader?
I hope. If it's not leader, oh my God.
All right, we're going to find out. No, manager. Manager gets it more, almost double what leader got.
Which I kind of goes back to there's lots of managers and it's much harder to be a leader. And so I think most people only think of managers as leaders too. Could be interesting.
By the way, Adam and Matthew got manager correct. All right, here we go. Teamwork or collaboration, which gets more?
Teamwork.
Collaboration.
All right. By the way, you're since you both blew it on the first one, there's no 4 for 4 for you. So
I know
we're going
we're done.
split here. One of you is going to be 1-0, and the other one's going to be 0-0, or 0 for 2. Excuse me. Yeah, 1 and 1.
I'm going to be put on a performance improvement plan by David. I can hear it
0-2.
already. This is it.
Who's
I'm
going to be
pipped?
So,
Oh,
Rusty,
no.
your teamwork. Sorry, Rusty, your teamwork.
Yes,
and Steve, your
teamwork.
collaboration. All right. Who's going to be going 0-2? Ah,
Yes.
it is Steve. Steve, you're 0-2.
Yeah, but I was
Not
only
by a
up by
lot there.
9,000.
Yeah.
Come on.
See, you got to understand. I went 0 for 0 last time.
Oh, were you when we were in DC? Were you 0?
I might have gotten 1. I was way off.
Oh yeah,
I'm
you
aspirational. See, that's my problem.
you
right?
came
Which
in
is-
third with the other
I
2
did.
contestants on stage, but we were playing lots of games too. All right, here we go.
a good leader lets his team win. Okay, that's the way I'm going to go for it. How's that? Okay.
All right, here we go. Accountability or authority? What do you think?
Authority.
By the way, I don't buy a good.
Nobody
good
wants
leader lets the
accountability.
team win. I don't believe that. You need to fight against your team too in a good game. I'm sorry. You said accountability, Rusty. What are you saying,
No,
Steve?
I said authority. I said
Oh, you said
authority.
authority. I'm sorry. Authority for you, Rusty.
I'm going to go accountability.
All right.
Just trying to even up the odds here.
But
I'm
hold on.
hoping. I'm
Rusty
hoping
may
he
be
can-
going ahead. Steve, you may be, who knows? So accountability for Steve, authority for Rusty. And the correct answer is accountability. All right. You
There's
guys are
hope.
tied now.
There's hope. That's the way I look at this. Okay.
All right.
there's
This
hope.
could be a tiebreaker or it could determine who's
One
in charge.
one question to rule them all.
Here it is. Mentorship, training, or role model. Which is the one? Matthew Thompson's 2 for 3 currently.
Training.
Training.
I'm going to go training as well.
All right. Whatever the case may be, you two are going to be tied regardless.
Let's see.
Whatever
See?
happens.
We
And the
work
correct
for
answer
win-win.
is
Yes.
Training.
Yes.
Very
There
good.
you go.
Good job, both you, in the game. I always ask the audience, did anyone pull off 4 for 4 there? Did anyone pull it off?
It's like
Interesting.
Jacob.
Jake did.
Jake did? Good job, Jacob. Cliff, 3 for 4. All right. Let's get back to the questions
That
at
was
hand. Oh,
tough.
do we have any? Nobody has questions in the Q&A. Come on, get some questions in there. I know you all have questions. Some of you, I'm sure, want to talk to your manager today, don't you? We'd love to give you my guest did not appear. I was hoping she'd appear today. All right. What I'm assuming you've had situations where, someone complains to you about another employee and the other employee comes to complain and you have to have a sit down with multiple employees? Have either of you done this before? Had to sit down with employees that are having conflicts?
Yeah.
Walk me through like the setup of this and how you kind of deal with, employee-on-employee conflict, not boss to employee conflicts. And so,
All right,
and also
Steve,
showing you're not
you go
picking favorites.
first.
Oh,
Because I'm
I
thinking
go.
suit of armor.
So depending upon how much experience you have in people management
Mhm.
is going to actually, you can almost dictate how it's going to go down and how you're going to approach it. Okay.
Okay.
I always look for people when I sit down when there's a conflict. I simply say, is it your goal to be the victim? Because there's a whole bunch of people who have succeeded in their careers by being the victim. And therefore, they always make it somebody else's problem. And we're constantly, right, trying to accommodate them because of this or that. They're very good at playing with the corporate rules or with the social issues about, harassment, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I'm immediately figuring out, is this a person that is trying to find a way forward? Or is this a person that's really comfortable being in the barrel and looking for the corner, where they just know all the issues, they're really good at this, it's a job, it's 8 to 5. And so the first thing I always look at is, do I have two people that are legitimately trying to work together? Or do I have a situation where that's not the objective, in which case I have a very different way to approach the problem?
Mhm.
All right, Rusty, that's what I offer.
And by the way,
Steve,
I've got some tons of good questions that just came in from our audience too. I want to get to them too.
So Steve, that's so important, right? Because it is about the intention of the employees, right? Where they're coming from. Are they, in effect, gaming the system, or are they truly trying to improve? And because that mentality, that starting point, really then starts to help you navigate or determine what is that best path forward. I think the other thing too, especially when you're in the scenario, let's say you've actually brought everybody together, because that was part of why, right? You were going to bring them together. It's actually listening to what's going on, truly understanding not just what's on the surface, but again, that intent of the individual, and can they truly move forward? And it can be tricky sometimes. Like you said, there are a lot of people that are hypersensitive about certain things. You don't know what biases they bring to the table. Sometimes it could just be bad experiences. I had someone work for me. I used to be a redhead. I know you can't tell that now, but I had someone who actually had a bad experience with redheads and just had a hard time communicating with me. And didn't find that out until later on in the relationship. We actually wound up being it. So sometimes there's just unique things that cause people to have that friction with each other.
By the way, I didn't mention, it just dropped a couple of minutes ago. We have our bad idea poll is live. So if you look at the icon on the right, the little bar chart icon on the right, just underneath the question mark one, that is our poll. There are no votes in now. I need you to vote for the best bad idea. Now, let me remind you, the reason you're voting is whatever gets voted up the most, we are going to challenge both Rusty and Steve to explain why they actually want to do this. And this is what's going to be fun and entertaining, because we know they're going to be struggling, whatever it is. So make it tough for them. I can't stress that enough. Make it tough. All right. I want to get these questions. This is a really good one. This comes from Matthew Thompson. How do you evaluate your boss when interviewing for a job? So what are the questions you should be looking for? And what is a let's say, like red flag, like I asked you, and what is a green flag? Rusty, red and green flags when evaluating boss, and what should you be asking, looking for?
Yeah. So I'm looking for them to ask questions kind of about my experiences, and then how they're actually going to help that business move forward, right? And that it's a conversation. To be perfectly honest, I would like for it to be a conversation, not an interview, right? As though I was talking with a good friend. If I have that comfort level with someone, I feel like we are likely going to be compatible and together can move things forward. Because I've worked for people in the past. I come from a technology background primarily, who weren't technical. But to Steve's point earlier, we had a rapport, a trust with each other to be able to move things forward. And sometimes that individual just look at me and go, "Hey, technical problem, you go solve it." and I'm here to support. And I think those are really the things. Yes.
Hey, I want to pause. Is Jennifer in the chat? She said it took her a while to get in, but Jennifer, she was the woman who I was chatting with yesterday. Are you here? If so, please chat. We'd love to bring you on screen, and so you can sort of bring up your issue. I don't know if I saw you, but please, Jennifer, pipe up. We'd love to bring you on camera to ask. I'm here. Oh, you're as anonymous. Well, that doesn't make things easy. All right, I'm going to invite you on camera. I can invite it to the main stage. Come on. Just accept my invitation. I sent you, and you. So she's got essentially a meeting in about 20 minutes. So we're going to try to address her issue as quickly as possible.
Good. So we'll give her anonymous advice.
Yes, anonymous advice.
Real-time help.
All right. Are you joining us, Jennifer? Or Anonymous? I'm sorry. Is Anonymous joining us? I'm here. Yes. Join us. There. Oh, here she comes. Great. Awesome.
Oh.
Awesome. There you are.
Hey.
Okay.
No, right.
Chatting yesterday. This is Rusty. Steve, just tell us what's going on, and I'll leave it to you and the two experts here.
Sure. So yeah, this was very a lot of synergy in the timing here. So I am new to my space, new to my career. I've been there just about a year. I was hired for my soft skills. And once I got on board, I'm in a sales role in IT solutions, client facing. And my training was get to the meeting and we'll teach you what you need to know as you go. And that's pretty much where my training has stayed. So I have a managing director and there are 3 supervisors below him. So over the year, I've directly reported to each of those 3 supervisors. I kept getting shuffled around. And now I'm directly reporting to this managing director for the past about 2 months. And we're having huge communication issues. So I do actually have a call with him at 10:45 to discuss that. But essentially, we had a chat about 2 weeks ago, and I just kind of said, look, something's broken down here. I don't know where that breakdown is, but we're not hearing each other. And so that was very productive. That went well. He was receptive to that, and we built on that. But today's call is about, we are, like I said, he said, get to the meeting and we'll join you and take you from there and teach you. So he joins every meeting with me with new potential clients, as my past supervisors have. All of those past meetings have moved forward to business, every single one, or at least a potential relationship that's still happening. Every single one I've had with him, he calls it himself a hostile takeover. I don't get to speak. I don't get to grow. I don't get to practice. And none of that has moved any business forward out of the last 2.5 months of meetings. So that call is at 10:45 to discuss how we move forward with that.
And you give her all the brilliance she needs in the next 5 minutes. Rusty Steve, what can you do?
All right. So here's what I would say. First is get on the phone with them and go, hey, look, clearly we're not clicking. So let's agree on a get well plan. Let's put something together over the next 30 and 60 days where what we want to do is improve the communications. But that's not good enough. Let's talk about the measurement or the metrics that we want to hold ourselves accountable to so that we're able to evaluate when we debrief after every call, did we advance to the measurement of the metrics or not? So that what you've done is you've called the baby ugly without identifying the parents. So you both have an opportunity to work with each other and have a brutal conversation in a trusted environment because you both acknowledged that you want to make it better.
Can I ask you a quick question, follow up to that? What would be an example of a metric to measure? That Jennifer can measure?
Oh, easy, which was, did this call result in a follow-up call? The most important thing for sales is, did it advance to the next level? If it didn't, if it died, that is the only thing sales cares about. So if it doesn't advance, and it used to, okay, then we can both say, look, it's not advancing. We got to work together to advance it. If our personalities are not aligned, then we can have that conversation around why isn't it advancing, and potentially have that conversation about how we have to allow growth. That you can go, look, give me the opportunity to do the first 10 minutes, and then you do the close for 20. so that you're both working towards trying to get to the next level, but you're having a chance to push back in to the conversation to be successful. And at that point, then you have to decide what you want to do with your boss in 30 or 60 days.
All right. Good advice. Rusty, what do you add?
Yeah.
By the way,
actually-
do you agree with it? Do you agree?
So
with it?
I double down wholeheartedly. Where's my little sound buzzer button that says absolutely? Little cheering. Actually, I was going to say that last bit, Steve, is that see if you can find a way to kind of segment that engagement, right? Because you want to be seen. I mean, sales in particular, you really want to be seen as someone who's adding value to that conversation and really being able to carry that lead forward. And it sounds like that's something that you're looking for, right? And I think you can articulate that to be, whether or not it's the first part or the closer, but that you be involved with that conversation. And it's quite likely that if you can get there, that you'll create that new relationship with him or her as you continue to move forward. But I agree with what Steve was saying wholeheartedly. I mean, those milestones or those metrics that you can chase toward that show progress are really that key.
Okay. Well, we found the
Awesome. Super helpful, gentlemen. Thank you. Can I ask, David, is there time for a little follow-up?
Oh, please. And well, how does that land? Would the advice they give you actually work?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think so. And
Please,
I think,
follow up.
I've been trying to approach this, and our VP has even gotten involved because he sees it as well, and sees sort of the breakdown in this manager style, which is a little interesting because this particular manager hired the VP 12 years ago as a recruiter, and he is now his VP. So that says something. But yeah, I think this is very helpful, and I've been really trying to. I'm really enjoying this new career. When it's going well, it's going great. I do have passion for it, but I do feel all of a sudden really stunted, and I need help to move forward. And I thought I was articulating that. So this is really helpful as far as how to approach that conversation. I want to do it in a productive solutions way, not in a complaining excuses way. And but one of the things, and I did say this to him 2 weeks ago, and I think we're moving forward in a good direction with this, over communicating. But he's like, I'm a coach. And there's been things in the past that he's brought up to me 2, 3, 4 days later, a week later. Well, you said this. And I was like, when did I say that? That's not what I communicated or was trying to. So when I talked to him, I said, you brought these things up a week later. I would prefer on the spot, call me out on that. And he's like, well, I'm a coach. I mean, I guess I'm your supervisor, but I'm here to coach you, not to call you out. I was like, well, you're clearly holding on to that information. And here we are a week later, call me on the spot. Let's get to the bottom. And if that is what I said, as my coach and my boss, I shouldn't be getting away with that. So here's what I think. He's been in this role for 14 years, hasn't sold in over 14 years. And I've not said this to him, but I think he's a really great cheerleader now. I don't think he's a great coach. What I did say to him is when we walk away from meetings or conversations several times, I feel like I walked away with goals and not action items. I know my goals. I need help on getting to and achieving those goals. So do you have any kind of a response to that?
That is very good. Rusty.
So I think it's really interesting. In my experience, when someone has to tell you what they are, they're telling themselves, not you, right? They're trying to convince themselves that they're in that role. And oftentimes that's a kind of a clear warning sign that there's like a personal gap, right? And what they're going to be able to offer to you. I think you need to consider that as part of your conversation, right? How do you move him along? Based on the fact that you were saying that someone that he hired in before is now his manager, it's quite possible that if you continue to work with this company, you could move past him. And you're going to have to kind of figure out what that looks like, because that has a series of challenges as well.
Okay, here's what I would suggest, quite honestly, which is, from what you've said, you're in a holding pattern with your current boss, and you've had great success with your other bosses who happen to be lower. Okay. Look for a win-win with your current boss. Talk to the other 3 bosses that you've worked well with. Explain that you really enjoy working with them, and that from a company perspective, there's better. And see if one of them will be willing to say, something, I would like to take her back on my team because I think it will help us extend my sales quota. So set up with the person that you want to work with, that you guys work well together, set that up so that they can maybe say, hey, look, can I have her back on my team? And so indirectly get yourself to a boss that you want to work for. And that's how you set up the win-win conversation.
Appreciate that. Thanks so much,
Right.
guys. It's
All right.
incredibly
So
helpful.
this is what we're hoping for, Jennifer. We do have a meetup. I don't know how long is your call going to be with your boss? Like
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay. We do have a meetup after this that will still be going on for 15 minutes. So if you could join us and let us know how it went, we would love to know. It's not going to be on this platform. If you come back to this link at the bottom where it says join us for Hacking Tenders, that'll change to the new link, or you can go to CISOseries.com and click event and you'll see the link as well there. But come join us. We'd love to know what happened. All right.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is great.
Thank
guys.
you for your time. Thank you, Rusty, Steve. We're eager to know how it goes down.
All right, my pleasure. Take care.
All right. Bye. All
Bye-bye.
right. That was awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. And we have a whole mess of questions coming up, and we're going to challenge you. Also, let me see. Have people been voting? Because I've been keeping eye on Jennifer's questions, and hold on. Have people been voting
Well,
on
that's
our
just
poll?
a good real time example, right? I mean, it's we all face that at some point, right? Those challenges and those questions.
All right. So also, 10% better, by the way. I know people have been putting in good advice, but you need to label it 10% better. I'm sorry. I may have not indicated that at the beginning as well. Label it 10% better, or just 10%. Just say 10% so we know it's one of our 10% better tips. I'll tell you, this new platform is just throwing me for a loop altogether. To tell you the honest truth. Oh my God, there are some good bad ideas here.
I'm scared. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm really scared. at
Don't
this
look.
point.
All I can say is don't look. I want you to be surprised by it. But please, there are a lot of people who still have not voted, and I want you to vote. All right, let's get one more question in before we do this. And people have been voting up questions, which is good. Here's a good one. This comes in from Bryn Stanley Asa, and Bryn asks, what's the best way to manage having a manager who doesn't facilitate your growth, especially when your skip level is removed out of the office, has too many reports? So like you can't go to the skip level really because it's just not available. So you're really kind of stuck with your managers not facilitating your growth. What's the best workaround, I guess, here? Steve?
All right. Not that I'm speaking from experience in any capacity whatsoever. Okay. The best way to do it is sit down and have a conversation either at a 6 month or a year. Agree on the metrics and measurements that you're going to be held accountable for.
Back
So
to
the
the
best
advice we
way-
just heard.
Right? The best way to move out of a conversation where all they want to do is pat you on the head, or in essence, they don't want to do their job of growing you. They just want to manage their own time, is to get them to agree on the measurement and metrics that'll put you in the upper right quadrant. And so therefore, every conversation you have with them going forward is relative to which measurement or metric are we talking about for you to be up in the upper right-hand quadrant, and what you need from them for you to succeed, because then he succeeds. Okay. Because oftentimes what you're hearing is in large organizations, assume you have 10 people, one will be in upper right quadrant, one is going to be in lower left quadrant and be pipped, and the other 8 are going to share a 3% raise, and I'm going to push them through. And so therefore, the best way to do it then is be measurement driven, because management is measurement driven, and you're forcing them now to have the conversation, and they're obligated to. And that's how you can take control of your career at that point, by going into a measurement exercise.
And that's a good point to make, because a manager can't say no to measure me, can they, Rusty?
Well, so I think it depends on the measurements and the manager, and ultimately what they're trying to accomplish. I actually agree with Steve. If there is actually a path forward in working with your current management team, even the skip manager, whether or not they're kind of distant, I think you can go about that path. I will say, and much like you, Steve, this has never happened to me in the past, but I have seen or have looked at.
You've heard about it happening.
Yeah, I've heard a friend of a friend, right?
I read it in a book.
Actually, I find it effective to find others, maybe 1 degree or 2 degrees removed, to actually help move that conversation forward as well. And I think it really depends on the situation. If you really are with a manager who's kind of a roadblock in and of itself, maybe they've reached a limit, or they've been in role for a very long time, and those measurements really don't change much. Sometimes you have to look outside that initial sphere of management and look to get some help from others, either as some sort of sponsor or mentor, or help you to navigate that. I found in my career that sometimes people don't hear you for whatever reason. You just don't communicate well with them, and there are times when you can get someone else to help you with that conversation to be able to help move your career forward. So it's more of a supplement to what Steve says, because I 100%. Steve's knocking it out of the park today, so I feel like I'm.
He always does. All right, hold on. We got a call.
Hello, welcome to the Department of Yes, where no request is ever rejected.
All right, I'm just going to say, so you know how the game, the Department of Yes, works. Whatever this bad idea is, you have to agree to it. You cannot be facetious. You have to give a legitimate reason why you want to do this. And I'm going to tell you, you are going to struggle with these because they're tough. All right. I'm going to make Steve go first on this one. All right. And
No good deed goes unpunished. Okay.
I don't
see what it is.
know. I don't know who said these. So please, in the chat room, speak up if this is yours. And by the way, if your bad idea didn't make it to the poll, we are struggling also with this new platform. There are some serious issues with it. We're working on it. So here we go. Bad idea. Identify your boss on a board slide. So you're speaking to the board. And identify your boss on the board slide as one of the challenges to the security program. Steve, why do you want to do this?
That's a great idea, because what you're going to do now is highlight how you're going to take extraordinary measures to be able to protect his line of business, because you think it is one of the most critical ones for the company's revenue.
Look at you. Look at you. I'm impressed.
Put his face right in the center of the slide, right?
That is, wow. Talk about, look, that is, you took that into the spin zone and put it into a centrifuge is what you did with that thing. All right. Rusty, let's see who topped that one. Remember,
That's all order
identify
there.
your boss on a board slide is one of the challenges to the security program.
Yeah, so you put his face in the middle of the slide and make it 2/3 of the. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, one of the things that you could do with this is you could really highlight where the ideas that your boss have it with the right investment can ultimately help the security organization move forward. Right, you could really start to talk about the pros and cons, and then maybe even inject some alternatives in order to be able to move things forward. So I absolutely think it's a great idea to highlight your boss and some areas of opportunity.
Here's something I don't think either one of you meant, and this is why you want to do it. Your bosses, often C-level people, often, it could be the CIO, the CEO, or it could be the head of legal. They are usually targets for cyber attacks. So when you're saying they're a challenge to the security program, it's because they're a target and you're highlighting an issue that they need to be concerned about. So
Wow,
you're setting.
that's next level thinking there, David.
There you go. All right. Rusty, you got this next one. Here we go. I will say, in a way, this solves a lot of problems too. Okay. Again, so I didn't see who I
Love
wasn't
the
looking
lead
at the
in
chat
there.
room. Who actually gave that last one? I didn't even see in the chat room. Did you see? Because a lot of comments went by. Did someone speak up? Oh, I don't know who said that. My apologies if I missed you and I didn't give you the right credit. But say it again if you don't mind, because I wasn't looking to. Hold it. Someone just spoke up in the chat room. It was. Oh well, no, it's not. That was mine. Okay, David Christensen. All right, kudos to you, David. Kudos
Yes,
to you.
David.
All right,
Well done.
here we go. Bring up all of your concerns for the first time in your resignation letter. Rusty, why?
Well, you know,
it
when
does solve a lot of problems. I will
it
just
really
say.
does. I mean, you know, listen, when you're on your way out the door, you want to make sure that you're really leaving. You're leaving on a good note, and you're really trying to help the organization see what that path forward looks like, right? And so you really should make sure that in lengthy form, right, and with exquisite detail, that you really want to make sure that you share the opportunities for this organization to grow as you go forward.
Bravo! Very good, Rusty. Rust. Steve.
I'm going to make that a good thing. That you were such an instrumental part of the company that the information that you're providing is absolutely necessary for them to be able to survive another day without you.
All right, I like it. That's correct.
Short and sweet.
Oh yeah! All right, very good, gentlemen. And by the way, do we find out who submitted that second one right there? I didn't see who submitted, but excellent job, both of you. And we do have some 10% tips. Can we hide the bad idea poll and just the 10% tips is at the bottom, but nobody's voted for those. So please give your 10% tips. Here's a good one. Encourage people to take sick days for mental health. That's totally all right. Totally cool. You need some time off. You need a breather. Go to the beach. If you're near a beach, do it.
So I'm going to add to that, and I'm going to say that 10% of, sick days.
Well, it's not 10%. This is our 10% tip.
Yeah, this
like how to make it
10%
a little bit
so
better.
I'm going to extend on that. I'm going to go, look, as a manager or leader, I used to have the following rule because I had developers. If you have a cold, if you have a flu, if your wife is sick, if your kid is sick, okay, you're not allowed to check code in. Any code you write is thrown out because your head is not into writing the code. So even though you may say, I want to write code because I have nothing else to do, I will tell you, you can write all the code you want. You are not allowed to check it in. You're going to throw it away and do it again. So therefore, go find something to do while you're sick because
that's not writing code.
It's not writing code. And that way, you're getting them out because you're doing the right thing by giving them a safe place. And you can say, you can write the code if you want, but it's going to cost me more time and effort, right? Because you're not thinking with your head on. And they actually appreciate that because you're just simply saying you do what you got to do. But if that's the way that you're going to handle it, just realize I got some expectations up front.
All right.
Yeah, and I would say, Steve, that's true too. When listen, a lot of us have families, and things get complicated. People are in different stages of their lives, and when there are those competing priorities, you really have to be able to focus. Sometimes deal with whatever life's issues are to really be effective. To your point, whether or not it's checking in code or you happen to have your finger on the nuclear codes or whatever, like you really need to have a clear head when you're doing that. And sometimes it's better to set that aside and go deal with whatever that is before it's just good practice. Hard to do though, right? We all, especially if you're you feel very dedicated to what you're doing.
By the way, the second bad idea question from Jacob Reynolds. I want to give him credit in place. Who gave us that good tip? There's a lot of really good tips here. The 10% better tips. Let me just and again pipe up if this is you because I don't know who it is. Whoops, I'm looking at the bad idea poll, not the good tip poll. Just quickly, demonstrate empathy towards others. You do not know what life circumstances they are dealing with, so always sort of give breathing room. And then this is an interesting one, and I want to get your take on this. Better establish how your boss likes to receive information. How important is that? Steve, Rusty, and I think the same thing is how do your employees like to receive information too, right?
So I was going to say, so I think those two actually are kind of intertwined, right? Like I remember this was several years ago. I had a mentor come to me and tell me, "Hey, your boss is a human being, right? And they have complications in their life too. Like you consider that, right? When you're trying to talk with them or communicate with anything with them, and you know that it's not an excuse. It's just a reality, right? That you really have to be able to connect with them on a way." And understand how you communicate with your boss, whether or not it's sharing something um, uh, uh, positive or negative with them, that ultimately you need to help things move forward. So I think that that context really does help if you can find it. Sometimes it's not there, but that for me, that's one of the things I look for.
By the way, we have so many questions here, and let me just try to burn through as many more. Oh, this is a really good one from Matthew Thompson. And let me quick answer to both of them. Then I'm going to close up, and then we're going to come back. What's the best piece of advice you've received from a boss and/or mentor on how to be a good leader and not just a manager? That's a really interesting one. Steve, you first. What advice you've received?
I had a boss one time, this was indirect, who sat me down when I was young. And he goes, Steve, you walk on water. The challenge we have with you is we can't figure out what pond you're about to walk across. And I took that to heart, which is a good leader, right, and manager is doing something great and not telling everybody about it first doesn't accomplish anything. Communicate what you're doing so that people go on the journey with you and learn to see what good looks like. Don't just expect to be patted on the head by doing something amazing at the end.
Good point.
Yeah, and you and I must be cut from the same cloth there, because I've had almost that same comment said to me, and but the guidance that was given to me was a slight variation of that, because the comment for me was I see bigger things, right? I see the future, but not everybody has that ability, and so you really have to. If you're going to be a good leader, you need to make sure that you're communicating the right message at the right time. Not everybody can see months or years out. Sometimes they can only see to the next week or the next day. You really have to, if you're a good leader, you can show them that path forward, but do it in the context that they can ultimately consume and be successful with.
All right. I'm going to just do a couple of closing comments, and then we're going to come back for your closing comments as well. But this is funky. The way we do this, I have to skip forward. I realize using this new platform. All right, everyone, by the way, click on the button at the bottom of the screen if you have not registered for next week's event, Hacking Containers. Again, it's not 9/6, it's 10/6. It's correct on the button, not correct on that screen. In fact, I'm already seeing a flood of people who registered. So it looks like we're going to have a huge, huge crowd for that discussion. And that is going to be awesome. So please click on that now, because that button's going to change in just a moment. Hey, starting in 90 minutes from now, we are going to do another show we do called Cybersecurity Headlines Week in Review with Andrew Storms, who's the VP of Security over at Replicated. That is actually on the CISO Series YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/CISO Series. If you just go there, you can find it. Also, if you go to our events page, you can find it there as well. All right. Now let's change that link at the bottom. Aaron, who is our amazing producer, who is dealing with this new platform, and I can't stress this enough, everybody, it's not easy. It is not. And I think we can't see Aaron right now, but he is nodding his head, because I saw in the back channel he was struggling with some things around the polls. So sympathy for Aaron on the polls. If your thing didn't get in, your bad idea. Although I do want to remind people, we will be giving away an awesome CISO Series jacket, or if you're a repeat winner, Amazon gift card for those people who, or for the most popular. Not as most popular, as rated by my panel of CISOs, the best bad idea on this topic, which there were a lot of good ones. So kudos to everybody. Anyways, click on that link at the bottom of the screen. Here's why you want to click. Jennifer just is having her meeting as we speak right now We all want to know how that turned out. So we all are going to meet there, and in the last 15 minutes, she's going to show up and let us know how. I hope she shows up. Maybe it's going to go long. Her meeting might go long, and that may be good or bad for her. Anyways, we hope she shows up at the last 15 minutes and lets us know how it went. But we would also like to chat with you. So please click on that link at the bottom of the screen. Hey, I mentioned this. Join us next week for that. Hey, would you like to sponsor a Super Cyber Friday? We have 2 left in 2023, and we got tons of them. But if you would like the 2 left in December 2023, contact me, and you could sponsor a Super Cyber Friday. All right, enough of that. We have exactly 5 minutes left. I have a few more questions here. Could I just see how many we can get through in the next 5 minutes, gentlemen? Let's do this. Here we go. This comes from, Val, let me pronounce his last name, Val Dobrushkin. What would you like to see the most from your subordinates, or alternatively, who was the best employee? I like this question, part of the question. Like, who was the best employee you ever led, and what was it that made them the best?
Steve, you want to go first?
All right. I call them guided rockets. Okay. People that are really intelligent, want to grow, have all kinds of potential. That what you can do is you literally point them at the problem, and then you get out of the way and you support them as they just work through it. Those people are awesome.
Yeah, and so hopefully with those folks, all you have to do is just kind of keep them in the guardrails, right? Make sure that they don't go too far off or spend too much money or create anything too complicated. But that really is, and that would be my experience too, a developer that I'd worked with in the past. Same kind of thing, like let that creativity go.
And if you're that person, realize one of the things I would do is I would actually go up my management chain and identify and let them know what I was doing with this individual, because I was going to give them access above me. Don't go to me. Come to me when you got a problem. You go up. You work with those folks. They know. So in essence, is mentor them all the way up the chain. So you basically are setting them up for success. And then you communicate to them again so that they understand just how empowered they are. And then you let them just grow.
All right. We have 3 minutes left. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off, Rusty?
No, go ahead.
All right. From Tim, how much responsibility do you take for conflicts in your team? This is from Tim. I'm sorry. Do you hire for cognitive diversity, and how do you ensure you get the most out of a diverse team with strong personalities?
Yeah, so I'll start and then Steve can make it sound better. So he's got all the good answers today. As a leader, one of the things I really strive for, especially when I have an opening or looking to hire for, is I'm really looking in the future, probably 3 or 6 months out. What do I need to move the needle for the team? I've always felt like and have been coached as a manager and a leader, if you're just doing what you've done before, then you're really not fulfilling your mission, right? As a leader, it's to move things forward. So I'm always looking for that skill set, that energy, that ability to move my team into the next generation or the next iteration of anything. So that's really what I look for. And sometimes that's hard because the skills that you bring into the team may be very divergent from what you had done historically, but over time, it ultimately moves the team to where they need to go.
Steve,
Um,
do you take responsibility for conflicts in your team?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. But here's what I say when I hire. I go, look, I'm not hiring you for what you know. I'm hiring you for what you're going to know 6 months from now. So in essence, what I'm simply saying is I appreciate what you know, and that's valuable, but it's only going to be good for 6 months because we're building and growing and innovating. And so therefore, I want you to know that you are going to grow with us in any way that we need to do that. But in order to not get them nervous, because some folks, given that kind of a challenge, they need some guardrails. And what I'll say is, but what we're going to do is we're going to put a 90-day plan together to understand how to measure that success so that you're always working within your comfort zone while I'm giving you a large field to play in.
And we are totally closing on that. That was awesome, Steve. Steve Zalewski, he's the co-host of the Defense in Depth. And here's Rusty Waldron, who is the BISO over at ADP. Both of you are awesome. Please join us in the chat. You have to click that thing, and you're going to be on the Toucan. You have to kind of register. Either you can use your Google account or something, but you'll be a floating head. For those people who have never done it, you just sort of connect with other floating heads, have conversations, and then leave and join others. Don't feel you need to make a conversation of 12 people. Try to break up, 2 to 4 at most. Try to break it up a little bit. Anyways, thank you so much. I want to thank Aaron for Align producing this entire event. I want to thank Crowdcast for helping us somewhat, although they got a lot of things they need to fix here. But regardless, we still love the platform and we want to make it succeed as well. That's it. Aaron, take us out. Everyone, click the link below. We want to see you and we want to know how Jennifer's meeting went.